Hello, everyone. I trust you've had a meaningful week with family and friends. We've officially entered a new year together. Today is the first day of 2023. Can you believe it? For many, the new year feels like a springboard for starting over. Like, as in a new year, a new me kind of vibe. And then week two hits, and it's like, well, pizza and cookies are delicious. And I tried lifting weights, but they're just so heavy. Why do we get discouraged and talk ourselves out of our goals? I think there's a better way for us to look at all this. And I think that's going to take us looking deeper at what's going on within. A few years ago, a really good friend of mine spent thousands and thousands of dollars on new rims and tires for his truck, which looked great, but the truck had a blown engine. So I asked him, so tell me, why did you buy the tires instead of fixing the engine? And he explained that he had already had plans to buy the new rims and wheels, didn't expect the engine to blow up, and he just didn't have the emotional energy to deal with the engine, so he bought the wheels instead. He put them on, that way he can look at it in his driveway and somehow feel okay about the whole situation. He said, I thought if I looked at it long enough, I'd find the emotional energy to go out there and fix the engine. Now, 2 or 3 years have gone by, and guess where it's sitting? It's still sitting in his driveway. And I thought, it's just so interesting because this is the kind of thing a lot of us struggle with. Like, what can I do easily and quickly that will distract me from the real problem? This is one of the traps of addiction, finding fast ways to medicate or distract ourselves from dealing with the hard stuff. For me, I've struggled with my weight, with my health. I have this revolving 40 pounds. I lose it and I find it again, and I lose it and I find it again, and then I find a little more around the holidays. It's just so embarrassing for me when I'm doing good and I lose that 40 pounds. Everybody's like high fives, great job, and then you gain it back, and you just feel ashamed. It's just embarrassing. Why do we give up on ourselves? And why is it we surrender something so valuable as our health? As I've been thinking about what I wanted this next year to look like for me personally, for my family, and for our church, there's been a couple words that keep coming up in my spirit as I'm praying. Inventory and pace. Inventory and pace. So inventory is like running a business where there's a product that needs to be, stocked and stewarded well, or the business doesn't work. Or it could be as simple as being aware of how much gas is in your car, right? If you run out of gas, you're stuck. Taking inventory of what you need in your life to be able to do what you want to do or go where you want to go. Jen and I spent a couple hours this week taking some inventory of our hearts, just sharing and processing with each other, some of the many challenging experiences we had of 2022. We love that we're here at LifePoint. That said, our transition here has been a bit bumpy for reasons out of our control. 1 year ago today, I knew God was closing a door in our life in Phoenix, but we had no idea what door he was going to open. Jen and I have always been open to what I want to call God adventures. And in my experience, the very best kind of adventures are God adventures. Can I get an amen? That said, this has not been an easy year for us, for our family. This year started out with so many question marks. Sometimes God gives you a Noah type plan, like Noah and the ark, a plan that comes with a sort of an instruction manual, if you will, complete with measurements and materials, etc. And sometimes God gives you an Abraham style plan, which is more of, hey, I want you to go that way. The unknown, it's scary, okay? And regardless of the seasons of life we have, it all boils down to one question. And here at LifePoint, it's not an unfamiliar question. And that is the one Jesus continues to ask us. Do you trust me? Do you trust me? So as you're thinking and processing through the what's next, your new plan, I want to encourage and challenge you to spend some time this week taking inventory, a personal inventory, And then sit down with your spouse if you're married and do some relational inventory. How are we doing? Are we communicating okay? Is there anything that needs repair? King David models this in Psalms 139. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life. If you want your life to change, it's going to start with some deep introspection, some heart level, gut level inventory. What are my hurts? Who have I hurt? How do I restore? What did I lose this year? How did I fail? Who did I fail? How do I evaluate and grow? Otherwise, we just get caught in the cycle of repeating the same things, right? Do you know what autopilot is? It's when we're not really paying attention at the wheel, okay? I mean, we have vehicles now that are self-driving, right? And I think that's terrifying, completely terrifying. The idea of autopilot being something we're all comfortable with is probably still a ways out there in the future. But a lot of us actually live our lives every day on autopilot. And what I mean by that, it's we're not actually making decisions. We're just following the schedule, or we're following the route. We're just surviving. And if we're being honest, for some of us, we're barely surviving. God wants us to be engaged in everything we do. He wants our intentionality. He wants us to show up and be present in our homes, with our spouses, and with our children. He wants us to be present in every moment that we live. For some of us, our autopilot is just us sitting and watching TV all day, or sitting down and doing this with your thumb for hours as we're scrolling through social media. Some of you take the same route home every day, and your mind is so full and overwhelmed that you get in your car, you leave work, and then all of a sudden you're sitting in your driveway and you're home and you don't have any memory of the trip because you were on autopilot. Like, I've done that. I mean, talk about a bunch of distracted drivers. Wow. Autopilot is a great definition of how many of us live our lives. And we have formed devastating habits. And I use that word intentionally because when you put your marriage on autopilot, or you put your relationship with your children on autopilot, who's driving? Who's leading? I'm so excited about this new series we're starting on January 8th here at LifePoint. It's called Airplane Mode. Airplane mode is very different than autopilot, okay? Airplane mode is the function on your phone, when you turn the radio off, so you're no longer able to receive messages or send them. It's us deciding that I'm not going to be interrupted now. I'm going to be present where I'm at. This series is about learning to be more present. And together we're going to learn ways to do that, okay? Because we need to be present in our lives. We need to be present with our families. We need to be present with God, right? And we need to be present with ourselves. Like, that sounds weird, but we need to sit down and be present with ourselves. Christians sometimes talk about getting in the Lord's presence, right? Like, how do you do that when He promises to never leave? It's interesting. Some of the words we throw around in our faith, it can be confusing. And sometimes, honestly, it's semantics getting involved, and we just don't realize what we're actually saying. Let me put it this way. If you're not feeling God's presence in your life, it's not because He left. It's because you haven't showed up. So over the next 5 weeks, we're going to learn ways to do that, to show up and be present. We're going to dive deep into prayer. We're going to dive deep into the Bible, into fasting, into generosity and serving others. I told you I've been hearing 2 words in my heart for the church. One is inventory. The other word is pace. Part of being present is being mindful of the pace that we live our lives, right? Because if we're always in a hurry, running from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. It's impossible for us to consistently be present where we are. And I struggle with this, guys. You know, historically, Life Point has done 21 days of prayer and fasting in January. I don't want us to start this year by racing from school to work to home to church for 21 days. Okay? So we are not having 21 days of prayer at the church. However, we are going to do something, and I want our entire church, I'm asking for 100% participation here. I'm asking you to join me and my family in praying and fasting for 31 straight days, starting today in your home. I have 5 prayer focuses for us, okay? First, if you're married, pray with your spouse. Pray for them and pray over them, and commit to do this every single day. All right? Second, I want us to pray over our children. If you don't have kids in your home, pray for your grandkids or for the children of this city, for those in foster care, for those in difficult situations, and commit to pray for them every day this month. Third, pray for Life Point. Pray for my family and pray for all of our pastors and staff and ministry leaders and their families. Commit to do it every day. Pray for the collective church in Salida County and the surrounding areas to be bold in the way they love Jesus and go after people far from Him. And fifth and last, I want to ask you to do some inventory with God and ask Him, is there anything in your life that you're not trusting Him with? And if and when He shows you something, commit to take steps to resolve that. So for the entire month of January, starting today, let us commit to prayer and fasting. I want you to pray about what you're going to fast. Mine is social media. As of today, I'm going to take all social media platforms off my phone for the entire month. I'm going to focus on being present with God, present with Jen and Coden, sharpening and focusing how I spend my time, that it would be pleasing to the Lord. There's more exciting things coming this month. I'm excited to gather back in person next Sunday, January 8th. I'm praying for you. May you soak in the presence of God and the presence of those you love. And remember, whatever space you enter, be good news. I love you guys. We'll see you next week.